live on the Digital Reference Manual book. So, been a while since I've made a video on this. About, 3 weeks? These things happen. So, quick little updates and news. My name is Botluck Productions, Walter Norton. Well, the channel's Botluck Productions. My name is Walter Norton. Big thing on news before we start with, that's my phone, all this. First thing, I had plans on going to Tyler, Texas Anime in Tyler, Texas. I lost track of time and didn't realize how soon that was happening, so I won't be going to the second convention. I'm also, with that in mind, also there was some scheduling conflict with work and the like. There's also travel costs so that's not really viable for the time being. Other little changes. We are working on the Area 51 reviews. That's going to take a little bit of time, but hopefully we'll get through that. As for the Digimon Reference Manual, we'll be continuing from Ikakumon. Now, as all of you know how this works, basically I go over the design of a Digimon. I say what I like about the design, what I dislike about the design, and what I would change about the design. I also read up the description of the Digimon and kind of go from there. If a design is one that I particularly like, I generally give it what is known as the perfect, as I feel that is a design that really should be considered if you're making Digimon. But my opinions are subjective, and if you don't agree with me, well, that's why we have the stream and the commentary. So if there's something you dislike, bring it up. Let me read it real quick on... Okay. He says, son, who's your favorite rabbit or bunny Digimon? Personally, when it comes to rabbits, I have to go with Lopmon. I was going to say Terriermon, but Terriermon is based off of a terrier. A rat terrier, not a rabbit. So, like I said, I like it. Nice to see you, Renamon5658. Like I said, I do like interacting with you guys. Sometimes it's nice to see it's nice to read your guys' opinion on these things. Sometimes you guys notice things that I don't, which I like. So, one thing I'll also add in case there are new viewers. After I make a comment on a Digimon and go through everything, I give myself about 30 seconds to let my throat rest a bit, and then we move on. So, and I do apologize if I don't respond quickly. There is something of a small time delay between what I see on chat and what I see on OBS, and so if it seems like I'm taking a while to respond, I apologize. Time delay. So we're going on with Jazzardemon. A Digimon that's a cross between the dad of a dragon and a fighter jet. This is going to be a problematic thing. Jazzardemon is capable of flying at high speeds, and its legs allow it to perform vertical takeoffs and landings. It even has the ability to hover. As for its personality, Jazzardemon is an eccentric Digimon that enjoys reconnaissance as a hobby, and always keeps a close watch on its surroundings. Since it has night vision, thermal senses, ultrasonic detection, and other capabilities, Jazzardemon is considered impossible to sneak up on. Its special moves include Laser Eye, which fires lasers from its eyes, and Sonic Vulcan, which involves shooting the rapid-fire machine guns on its shoulders. So basically a F-22. So, things about the design. We have a robot bird, a mechanical bird. Reminds me a lot of Mecha, which wouldn't surprise me if that was part of the inspiration. Things about the design I like. this isn't a design I don't. This is going to be hard. I guess what I would say I like about the design, it's interesting with the legs because they're going for a very heavy mecha approach with the legs, which is a weird juxtaposition against the body. Um, what I don't like, while I like the legs, it does they feel a bit big compared to the rest of the body. I realize jets can have small wingspans, and that doesn't necessarily mean a lot for distance. I mean, you move a brick fast enough, it will fly. But in this instance, I think they a mecha wyvern. I Yeah, I can kind of see that, but even then, the wingspan is a bit too small in my opinion. I don't like that it doesn't look practical. I realize it's probably flying with jets, but if you're going to say that this is a flying thing, you may need to emphasize a bit more on the wings. I think if I were to change this design, I would make the wings a bit beefier, probably even longer. Maybe even add the machine guns to the wings themselves. There's some enemy from one game, I think Metal Gear Solid, uh, where the design had this. It was like a bird with machine guns on it, and I think it's Metal Gear Solid, but I could be wrong. Another thing I would change is probably the head. I'm not a big fan of this dragon skull headpiece. I realize it's a dragon and it's a wyvern, but I think it's a bit much compared to the rest of the design. The other issue we're dealing with is the art itself. We've seen this before with other Digimon. The art sometimes doesn't do a good job of depicting the Digimon. In this instance, I think that's what we're getting. That being said, if this was sold as like a Gunpla kit, I could easily see this sell pretty decently well. So, to recap, I like the idea of the big legs it has, big feet. I don't like that the wingspan doesn't. Metal Gear Chrysalis is from one of the Metal Gear PSP games. I think that's the. I think that's the. I think that is. I think that's it. But it may have also been from Metal Gear Solid 4. Um, which, but that's beside the point. It's probably Chrysalis. No, wait, no, it wasn't Chrysalis. Hold on. I think it was Raging. No, it's. No, it's not. So I thought maybe it's Raging Raven from Metal Gear Solid 4, but that's not the case. It's a different design. Um, but yeah, something to maybe put the machine guns on the wings itself. Other than that, I'm not a big fan of the headpiece. It's an okay design, but not really my thing. We're going to give it the 30 seconds. Have some Coke Zero. No, I am not advertised by Coke. I don't even think Coke knows me. So, and really that's just something I'm drinking that I have on hand. So, we're going to move on to the next Digimon. Ah. Jungle Moijiamon. A Digimon that lives in the depths of the jungle. Jungle Mojimon treats its den and territory as sacred ground. I would put that feet back a little. Uh, oh, you're talking about the design. Yeah, I can see that because it's directly under the wings, and that looks a bit weird. Uh, Sacred Ground shows no mercy to those who would invade its space. It uses a special move, Jungle Punch, to wall its foe with all of its wild might. A, B, C, H, I, J, K, L. We have a recolor of Moijimon. In this case, we have an Ewok. Yep. I'm not a big fan of recolors, but because Jungle Moijimon is first, I guess we might as well address it. Things with this design. What I like about this design is it looks like an Ewok, and they tried to make it look kind of like an ape. But a lot of that's just coming down to it's a recolor. In this case, the colors work. What I don't like, it's a recolor. There isn't. I'm not a big fan of recolors because it's just kind of lazy. If I were to change this, I would do something like maybe add a bandana around the head, or maybe add a poncho. Something to make it look like an Ewok. To really show that this is something different. Otherwise, it's a little furry thing. It's not a bad design, but I can see why Jungle Moijimon doesn't really appear that often in anime. In fact, I don't think I think I've seen Moijimon once or twice, but I've never seen this version. But I could be wrong. So to recap, I like that it looks like a Ewok. I don't like that it's a recolor. If I were to change it, I would add something like a bandana or poncho, just to lean in towards that Ewok aspect. I'm going to give this about a minute of rest because I'm noticing I'm speeding through a lot of these rather quickly, and I'm worrying I'm not giving you guys enough time to respond. This might as well also ask, some of my days have opened up. Is there any kind of games that you guys think you would be interested in seeing streamed? Bear in mind, they wouldn't necessarily be games that I would stream continuously. They may be something I pop in every once in a while. Bear in mind, I'd have to be able to run them. So if they're on something like Steam, eases things up. But if it's on something like PS1 or PS2, then I have to work with a lot of stream capture. No, that's just an airplane. So we're going to move on to the next Digimon. Where is it? Kabuterimon. Kabuterimon. Even for a newly discovered Digimon, ha! Kabuterimon is a highly unusual insectoid Digimon. Though it's unclear how it came to be insectoid. Shantae Half Genie Hero for the PS4. I think that's on Steam. I should be able to pick it up. Though it's unclear how it came to be an insectoid Digimon, it is understood to have the power of an ant and the defense system of a beetle. As you expect from an insect, it only thinks about survival, and will do anything to ensure it. Hostile towards virus Digimon, Kabuterimon will attack one on sight without mercy. Its head is made from metal, granting an incredible defense. Its special move is Electro Shocker. Kabuterimon, one of the oldest Digimon here. I think this was one of the originals. And we can see that in the design. We've got a lot of musculature in it. And famously, this was also Izzy's champion for Kabu. No. I forgot that Digimon's name. Hold on. If it seems like I forget things, you have to understand. Tentamon. I don't watch a lot of Digimon. I mean, I used to, but when you're working around with different things, some things kind of mess up. Tentamon, that's it, exactly. Um, Kabuterimon is Tentamon's champion. Uh, I will say I like about the design. It's interesting they went with because this is clearly a beetle, but they didn't make it a big husky beetle. They actually went more for a thinner, more thin, muscular beetle, which is an interesting design choice because usually you don't do that with insects. You tend to emphasize more of big. They're big. Look at something like the Tyranids from Games Workshop, where the big guys look big. Tentamon leans more towards a thinner design. I like the use of blue is interesting. Again, going towards electric. The samurai helm is a very unique way to go about making insectoid armor. They didn't. You can kind of see a bit of Giger in it, but they're going more towards samurai helm. Which, given that with things like Kamen Rider, they tend to really go the route of insect and armor, is an interesting choice. Um, Things I dislike about the design, I actually don't have much to say on that. I think if I were to change this, I would have added maybe a little more mechanical aspect to it. Maybe make the wings, one or two of the wings, a bit mechanical to emphasize some a bit of electricity. But other than that, I don't have much I dislike. It's a pretty good design. I personally don't like insects. I don't like them, but from a design standpoint, Kabuterimon is a pretty good design. It's like a mix of the Predator and Alien. So I like the design because it's different from a standard insect. They're mixing a bit of organic and biomechanical. What I don't like is I can't find much I dislike. I guess maybe the art is too complex for what it is. And if I were to change it, I would add some more mechanical parts. But realistically, this is a perfect design. This is what I would lean towards when making. This is what I would lean towards if making an insectoid Digimon. Something like this. It's good. I like it. I don't like insects, but that's beside the point. It's also interesting that it's a vaccine. Um, I guess maybe I'd add more electrical aspect and more electrical motifs to the design, but as is, it's a good design. We're going to give that about a minute. So Shantae Half Genie Hero. I wonder if that's on Steam. It is. Hmm. Wonder if I already have it. When you go through a lot of Steam sales, you pick up a lot of things. I really need to be careful how often I buy on Steam. That being said, how is everybody? Actually, I'm a bit surprised that Caputerimon doesn't have an X antibody form. Keep going down, Walter. My birthday is in April. Happy birthday! I realize we're still in March, but happy birthday, man, or dude, or however you wish to go. Uh, Happy birthday. So next we have is Chaos Gammamon. A matured form of Gammamon, its body turned blue from the tranquility of its serene soul. Chaos Gammamon spreads the membrane on its arms to float like a glider. It will fly far distances from high elevations, using the jets on its knees to raise its elevation once during its flight. It is calm and collected at all times, and fights while reading its opponent's movements. Chaos Gammamon uses a special move, Urda Impulse, to launch a gliding tackle at the enemy, or Lamberta Kick to fire its knee jet from a somersault kick. So we have a Gammamon evolution. I think we've seen a few of them. We've seen Batel Gammamon and Gulus Gammamon. I am sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. Pronunciation is weird. We haven't seen Weizen Gammamon, but we'll get there. Sorry, I was reading the thing. So, what we have here is a flying Triceratops, although they're saying it's a dragon. It's interesting because they're going the route of a wingsuit with jets, and they're going with blue. I find that's a bit interesting because blue, at least for me, is more of a leans towards water rather than air. But that I can see where they're going with this. It also reminds me of this one. It's not a dinosaur, it's an ancient reptile. It's usually depicted with having a fan around its abdomen, around its chest area. It's not so much wings, but it allowed it to glide. Actually, I think this type of that lizard still exists. But regardless, with this design, I like the concept, and I like the concept of having a flying dragon that isn't just big wings and having a wingsuit. I think that's a good direction to go. What I don't like, I think they may have leaned a bit too much into the Triceratops aspect. I think if I were to change, I think with the head crest, they should have leaned more towards something that's more aerodynamic to emphasize this is a flying Digimon. They're already emphasizing a lot with the flying, but I think with the head crest they should have eased it up a bit. With this design, if I were to change it, I would probably change up this head crest. Either smooth it down in order to go more of it's more aerodynamic, or add like a central crest to help with navigation, like a rudder. Or if you've ever seen The Rocketeer, something like that style of crest. You can still have the spike up front, just something to help with maneuvering, with you just moving the head. Other than that, it's a pretty good design. I do think the jets on the legs are a bit goofy, but they do fit the design. They do fit with what they're going. Overall, it's a neat design. I think another thing I would change, I would add goggles. You have a flying Digimon and he doesn't have goggles. You're already going with the neckerchief. I realize that's a holdover from Gammamon, but at this point, add the goggles. Overall, though, I will give this the perfect. I think it's a good design. Say what you will about Ghost Game, it does seem like the designs they made for Gammamon were pretty good. And before you ask, no, I haven't seen Ghost Game, and I haven't been seeing Beat Break. I am waiting for Beat Break to go through its whole thing before watching it. I realize it's a little lazy on my end, but well, I kind of want to see the full story. And with that, we're moving on. If it seems like I'm waiting a bit longer to before commenting, I'm giving myself a minute in order to rest the throat and to give you guys time to comment because I feel as though I speed through these a lot more than I should. Kinkakumon, a rampaging girl Digimon who, together with its younger brother Ginkakumon, is feared as part of the Gold and Silver Ogre siblings. Kinkakumon is the type to rush headlong into affairs of the heart, as a Digimon with a storied history of love that violently attacks anyone it fancies. Moreover, this thoughtless creature is a natural airhead and tends to jump to conclusions. As a result, it will mistakenly assume that the opponent has fallen for it, leading to quite the uproar. Kinkakumon has a strong personality, but is a novice when it comes to love. He gets worked up and swings at its opponent both when embarrassed and sad. No amount of lives is enough for any opponent it takes a liking to. Kinkakumon uses its special move, Kibakuso, to swing its Shisai. I have no idea how to pronounce that. Shisai Kanu club from overhead and pulverize the very ground. Oh, come on! Doki Doki Dokyon is an all-purpose technique with excellent offense and defense that Kinkakumon uses to discharge a high-voltage current from its entire body. Reiku Kishu is a lightning-fast surprise kick by which Kinkakumon paralyzes its foes with electric charge shot from out of its leg. Okay, so we have a Journey to the West reference. It's a barbarian woman. Ogre woman. At champion level, I'm okay with getting to more humanoid designs. But this just looks like a masked wrestler. And I don't know if this really is worth much of a Digimon design. What I like about it, it's a champion before they went with the whole human design and not like a rookie. What I don't like, it's basically a scantily clad woman, the Digimon. And we've had and there are some pretty bad Digimon that lean towards that. I don't see this. I don't like this design. I realize what they're going for, but what I would change with this, I would probably change so much with this design. It's not normal. I I can see you getting towards the ogre, like Ogremon, and giving her golden armor, or doing what some fantasy anime do, where if they want an orc character and make them female, they just make a somewhat orcish character that's okay. That's making me sound good. The point is, I don't like the scantily clad woman design for this, and I would have changed it to something different. This is not what I would say you want to lean towards with Digimon. As champion, this is a little more acceptable, but a design like this, I think, would lean more towards Mega or Ultimate. And a champion, I would say maybe if you're going to keep the scantily clad women, maybe add some more armor to this, because right now this is just a chainmail bikini. I'm sure Conan the Barbarian would be okay with this. This just feels a little too uncomfortable for me. I apologize if I'm being puritanical with it, but I don't see this design working. Not I don't. Um I don't like this design. Uh I'm sure if I knew more about Journey to the West, I could do a better job of commenting on this, but it is what it is. To recap, what I like about the design: Red Sonja. I didn't think that. I forgot about Red Sonja. As that could work. Um, Still, though, I think it's maybe a bit too revealing. Maybe go more towards a Xena warrior princess. I think it's just maybe it's just me being too puritanical, but I don't like this design. So, but to recap, what I like about it, at the very least, it's a champion where they're doing this and not a rookie. What I don't like, uh, it's too much of a chainmail bikini kind of design. I don't think this looks. I don't. This doesn't feel like a Digimon to me. It's someone's D&D character, and if what I would change, excuse me, go lean more towards Xena Warrior Princess. Um, Maybe Red Sonja, but this is not a design I like. We're gonna lean this towards 30 seconds because, but actually no, we're just gonna move on to the next Digimon because I don't want to give this the time too much love because I don't like that design. Kiwimon. A mysterious ancient Digimon said to have been hunted to extinction due to the spread of the internet. The wings of this bird Digimon have completely degenerated, preventing it from taking flight. Kiwimon also bears some aspect of a vegetation Digimon, with leaf-like objects growing from its head that it uses to absorb nutrients through photosynthesis. Aside from the hard shell covering its head, it has no way to defend itself, and its docile personality makes it an easy target. Its special move, Pummel Peck, uses the Chibi Kiwimon hidden in its body to attack. The beaks of the Chibi Kiwimon are incredibly hard, just like Kiwimon's, and they explode when struck. These Chibi Kiwimon will always come back, even with their charred to a crisp by explosion. Well, I think we figured out why this thing has gone extinct. It keeps exploding. But yeah, Kiwimon is based off the kiwi bird from New Zealand. Kiwis are not extinct, although they are very endangered. It is interesting that that is the route they took with this Digimon, especially since it's a champion. This, I would have leaned more towards rookie, but it does, I can understand where they're going with the champion. So I like the idea of a Kiwi Digimon as, leading towards that, and also comparing it to a kiwi fruit. I believe that has a different name in different countries, but we call them kiwis. What I would change with the design, what I dislike about the design, I think the chibi kiwis are a bit much and don't really add much. I would probably put the chibi kiwis hidden in the skull under the idea of it's hiding there before they kind of unleash. If I were to change this design, I would probably add like a raptor claw onto the feet. And maybe some, show the Chibi Kiwimons coming from behind in the brush area. Almost like it's hiding there, but if you attack it, the leaves are going to head out and explode on you. Overall, this is a fun design. It does lean more towards rookie, in my opinion, but I can understand what they're going for. So the recap, I like the concept. It's a good mix of the kiwi bird and kiwi fruit. I don't like the Chibi Kiwimon. I think those would have been better, maybe somewhere hidden elsewhere, not just running about. And if I were to change that, I would probably add raptor claws to the legs and add the Chibi Kiwimon to be in this head area. I will give it the perfect. No, we're going to give this a minute. A good palate cleanser from Red Sonja. No, that's me being insulting. A good palate cleanser from Kinkakumon. So not much going on my end these days. As I said, slowly working on the... Whoa, we got a big spike. Doing a little bit of work on my Area 51 review. Hoping to get a laptop to do work when I can, because right now I'm restricted to just my computer, my desktop. Then again, with how things are going tech-wise, that may be a while before I can get a laptop. But we'll see. This is why liking and subscribing is so important. So we're going to combine both Night Chessmon Black and Night Chessmon White together because realistically they're the same Digimon. So we're going to be hitting 2 for 2. I will read the description in case there's some difference. A master of throwing giant darts. Although Night Chessmon is weak at close range, its legs are as powerful as those of a thoroughbred horse, and it can jump over foes to disrupt them. Its catchphrase is Joust. Its special moves include big darts as well as Gallop Hole, by which it launches itself high into the air and stomps on the enemy. Night Chessmon also uses Night Lance to prepare its darts before charging at the opponent. And we're going to look at Night Chessmon White, which is the exact same. Okay, so we're just going to look at one of them. So, Night Chessmon Black. It's an interesting centaur design. We are leaning towards the... Obviously, it's based off of the knight piece in chess. They are leaning towards the horse. It's interesting they're not just giving this a horse head and instead going towards it's a centaur. That I like the concept of, because it's very easy to just do a knight head and just call it, oh, that's Night Chessmon. What I don't like, not a big fan of the dart. I think if this had just been, say, a jousting arm or just some joust thing, it would have worked a bit better. I think having them throw darts is a bit excessive for a design motif. But that's just me. As for what I would change, I would probably give it that jousting arm, make one of the arms a jousting arm, and maybe add a tilting shield. Other than that, though, this is a pretty good design. And just for consistency's sake, we are going to look at the white Night Chessmon White. I don't really have any complaints about the color of the Digimon, because not much you can really do. It is interesting that this with the red and white, it reminds me of Dukemon, while the Night Chessmon Black reminds me of Alphamon. I don't think that's intentional, but that would be interesting if that was part of the design element. I will give these the perfect, if only because they do fit. And again, I like the fact they didn't just give it a horse head. So the recap about the design. What I like, it's a chess piece, but they didn't just give it a horse head. They kept the horse concept by making it a centaur, but they didn't give it a horse head. They lean more towards it's a knight. I don't like the big dart. I think that doesn't fit. That doesn't fit the knight theme. Uh, Horse-mounted javelins, as far as I can tell, weren't that bit popular. And if I were to change it, I would change the dart to the dart or javelin to a lance, an actual lance arm of the Digimon. So we're going to give it about 30 seconds. I actually wonder how many of you all watch this outside of stream. Okay. Kogamon. A shinobi Digimon that lives in the shadows, covering its face with a purple mask. Kogamon wanders around the digital world to train in Koga Ryu ninjutsu. People seldom encounter it as it moves from shadow to shadow and stays out of sight. Kogamon uses a special move, Koga-style shadow clone, to make a clone of itself to attack the enemy together. I'm going to read Ninjamon real quick. Okay, so they are different. So we have a recolor of a Digimon. I'm not a big fan of recolors, but in this case, what they're trying to do here is do the difference between the Iga clan and the Koga clan. These were two clans in Japan that emphasized, if I remember correctly, infiltration and subterfuge. I'm sure someone can correct me on this, but otherwise, they're basically a recolor. I do like the purple, as it really does emphasize this is a sneaky Digimon. But otherwise, it's a recolor of Ninjamon. I don't have too much problem with it, but it's a recolor. Really, the big thing that saves it is the purple, but that's not much. Again, it's a recolor. So we're just going to move on. Although I will say I do prefer Kogamon over Ninjamon, but that's just because of the purple. Kokatorimon. What the? Are you joking? A giant bird Digimon with two extremely powerful legs. Having lived on the ground for so long, Kokatorimon has lost the ability to fly and has digivolved a body to suit a surface life. This is why it has grown so large while developing tremendous leg strength. Kokatorimon's wings have degenerated completely. In battle, it spreads them wide while displaying its tail to intimidate the enemy. While violent and ferocious by nature, it dislikes intense battles that consume the energy it needs in order to maintain its large body. Its special move is Petra Fire. Those hit by these fearsome attacks are turned to ash. Not to ash, but to stone. Let me look up something really quick. So it's literally just a recolor. It's basically the same as Akata Terimon. We're just moving on. If the other thing they're going to change is just making the head crest black, red, I don't like recolors because so often they end up being cheap. They end up feeling like they did almost nothing to change the Digimon. And I find that very lazy and disrespectful. Because you're not trying. You're not trying to change the design in any way. At least with X antibodies, they're changed. Kokashimon. And again, I apologize if I'm not pronouncing these correctly. A puppet Digimon that digivolved by incorporating data from a kokashi, a type of traditional Japanese doll. Kokashimon often makes its home in the various abandoned castles and mansions scattered across the eastern digital world. Although normally found sitting quietly in one place, to the extent that it can be mistaken for an ornament, it has a mischievous side and enjoys startling those who unwittingly draw near. It also has a caring side, showing a strong drive to protect in-training and rookie Digimon. It proves to be a stalwart companion once a bond of trust is established. It possesses psychokinetic abilities and moves by emitting waves of psychic energy from the base of its body, floating from place to place in the manner of a ghost. The soundless nature of its movements makes its approach difficult to notice. Kokashimon can use its special move, Sophora Storm, to fire a volley of psychokinetic bullets from the base of the Kokashi that make up its arms, while Kideko Strike sees it crash into the ground from on high, unleashing a shockwave of psychic energy that temporarily stuns anything it hits. So this is based off of if I remember correctly, a Japanese doll. It's interesting because it has aspects of a rocket, and a rocket with the multi-stage boosters. It does kind of remind me of like an ornament that I would find in an RPG game. You pick it up and you get the cursed Kokashi, or some kind of cursed object. It does look like something I could carve out of wood and then paint and then present as a gift for a child. So in that regards, it's a neat little design. What I don't like about the design, I think they may have went a bit too far into the toyetic aspect, especially with the arms. I think if they had made the arms less like two separate Kokashi and instead actual... What I'm saying is the face on the other Kokashi are a bit much in my opinion. I think they could have just been left bare, adding to sort of the creepy factor. As for what I would change, I would probably add some kind of, not lace, but like a rope or something that connects the arms to the main body. But other than that, it's an okay design. It's not. I don't give it the perfect, because this feels too much like an item in a game, and I realize that's part of the idea. But they need to do something that really changes it to be more like a Digimon. Right now, this looks like I'm reading a description from a RPG wiki that tells me this is this key item that you can use. It grants you +5 luck and -3 magic resistance. They need something to emphasize that this is a living thing rather than an object. I realize that's the point. It's a puppet, but there are some puppet Digimon that look like they're a living thing rather than this. And I know what they're trying to reference, but I think a little bit of a change is necessary. So to recap, what I like the concept. It's a well done idea. What I don't like, I don't like the faces on the arms, and I think they could have done something more to make it feel like a living thing rather than a puppet. Lean a little less in puppet and more into something alive. And if I were to change this, I would add some kind of rope to connect the arms to the body. Overall, it's a nice little design, but I think it needs some work. 30 seconds. Coke Zero. A ghostly glow would be cool. Yes. Some ghostly glow. I was trying to avoid saying they need some electrical thing or some glow around the arms, but it needs a glow, because this doesn't feel like a ghost. You hit the nail on the coffin right there, Renamon 5658. This needs a glow to emphasize this is a ghost. This is a possessed object. Because right now, this just feels like a key item in Resident Evil 9. No, I have not played Resident Evil 9. At some point, I have to. But Commandomon. A vehicle species Digimon that loves moving around carrying other Digimon on its back. Wherever Commandomon goes, it goes with a carefree disposition. traversing any footholds as if it were on a stroll. It can even spin its tail to swim underwater. Excuse me. Its long fur is always dirty from dragging along the ground, but it actually likes to be clean. That's weird. Commandomon dislikes fighting, fleeing to prioritize the safety of its passenger Digimon. But when enemies attack it, it intercepts with Howling Wiper to loom over them and scrub them with its shaggy feet hair, and Meshiguron to blow them away with a violent charge. So, Commandomon was a Digimon that I believe appeared in the 2021 Digimon Adventure remake. That's from what I understand. I could be wrong. It kind of reminds me of. It reminds me a lot of what Hayao Miyazaki would make. In fact, I'm wondering if the cat bus from My Neighbor Totoro was a minor inspiration for this. I'll say with the artwork, having this dust come up underneath them reminds me of seeing pictures of Tank. Yes. Yes, as in that was the reference they were going for, or yes, as in that was the design input. Uh, oh, and apparently it's named after Komondor, a Hungarian breed of dog. Digimon reboot. Okay. So apparently it's named after a Hungarian breed of dog. And. Sorry. Hungarian sheepdog. Huh. That's interesting. But yeah, I'm wondering if Miyazaki's cat bus was a minor inspiration for this. As for vehicle design, I'm just going to say I didn't see a lot of the reboot. I saw part of it and then kind of left because I wasn't a big fan of it compared to the original. Yeah, I'm getting old. The design reminds me a lot of a brush, which is a neat idea. I think the helmets are very cool. They again remind me of Miyazaki and a little bit of Gundam. Um, what I dislike about the design, I think the visor down beneath the visor down here is a bit excessive because it kind of implies that you can go inside the Digimon and ride. I don't think that's the case, but I could be missing some context from the anime. I think if this had been something like goggles or some other kind of collar, it would have worked better, but as is, meh. What I would change, personally, I would just omit this bus goggle things on the bottom, and that's about it. Overall, I like this design. I especially like the helmet because it does remind me of Miyazaki. Uh, I'm almost certain they were inspired by Miyazaki with this. Um, I'm gonna give this design the perfect. It's just a very good. It's a good boy. It's also interesting that the kids were able to go inside the doggo. Okay. So they needed some kind of windows. I think they could have gone a bit more into the route of what uh, My Neighbor Totoro did, where it's just the cats inside were just a bus. But if that's the case, then I can see that working. Um, Now I don't know how to feel about that. I'm gonna give this the perfect design, just because it's a well thought out and neat design. They could have just done the Miyazaki cat bus, but they did something unique. Um, I like it. The idea of a transport dog. Um, I still would omit this thing up front. That's a bit much in my opinion, but that's just me. But overall, good design. 30 seconds. Again, it gets the perfect. Kurisarimon. Kurisarimon is a champion Digimon that resembles a chrysalis. In order to digivolve into a more powerful form, the rookie Karamon will temporarily enter a chrysalis state to store up its energy. As a result, it becomes completely unable to move. But its tough outer hide protects it while the tentacles that grow from its back allow it to attack foes. Karamon can sometimes digivolve directly into an ultimate Digimon without going through this champion phase, but digivolving into Kurisamon allows it to reach a more powerful ultimate form. Special move Data Crusher involves using its tentacles that extend from its back to destroy an enemy's composition data. So, Kurisarimon, despite its rookie form of Karamon appearing in the movie, Kurisarimon does not. I think it wouldn't be until Tamers? I don't know if this appeared in the O2 film. It would not surprise me, but I don't think this appeared until Tamers. It's interesting because you have a chrysalis, and Pokemon has a chrysalis Digimon. I forgot the name. It's been a while. It was Gen 1 and... But what I like about the design is they didn't just make Centipede Pod. They didn't just make a Centipod. They actually took a chrysalis and added tentacles as like protection. And I like that concept. As for what I don't like, I can see why they dropped it from the movie. This really isn't that intimidating as a Digimon. I think if they had done something to make it seem more intimidating or as a threat, a bit more. Right now, it just kind of feels They need to do something to really make the design threatening. As for what that would be, I don't know. Maybe some like a faux mouth to indicate that it's hiding and scaring predators from getting at it, but maybe make the claws on the tentacles be like USB ports or USB sticks or PS2 ports. Some interface ports. As for what I would change, I think I would change the spikes on the tentacles to be something more like tech, something that it's going to plug itself into in order to hold and gather data. If you've never seen it, back in the early 2000s, every company wanted their own proprietary charging cable, and there were actually, because there were so many different proprietary cables, what some companies did was they would create a wire that split off into a bunch of different wires. And the way how these things look, they look like the cat of nine tails that was used to whip Jesus. They were pretty bad. In fact, let me see if I can get an example. You may not be able to see them anymore, but if I can find an example. To get an idea of what I mean. I may not be able to find it. Okay, I might not be able to find it, but I guess not. The point is, back in the early 2000s, phones, different devices had different ports. It was not uncommon to get adapters that had all those ports on one thing, and they did look like a whip. And I think for Kurisarimon, they should have done something similar, just to show that it has different ports to plug into things to protect itself and to hold itself. But I can't get a picture. Overall, it's an okay design, but I can see why they omitted it from the movie. I'm going to. So, the recap, what I like about the design, I like that it's a chrysalis, and I do like that they didn't just copy centipod, they actually added tentacles with that protect it. What I don't like, it doesn't seem threatening, and they should have done something to make it threatening. And if I were to change it, I would add different computer ports and charging parts on the tentacles to emphasize it holding things down. 1 minute. I'm going to see if I can find it again, find a picture of that. So I've used to seeing a picture. And I can't. That's. Oh well. Nice. Yeah. Kuwagamon, an insectoid Digimon with giant pincers on its head. Like Kabuterimon, Kuwagamon possesses combat abilities far surpasses those of its kin inhabiting File Island. While Kuwagamon enjoys the protection of its strength of a sturdy shell, it uses its power of its pincers to squeeze the life out of any foe it catches. It has a completely hostile relationship with the vaccine type Kabuterimon. It uses its special move Scissor Claw to easily cut through tough objects. Kuwagamon was one of the early Digimon in Digimon Adventure. I believe he was the first villain. He was dispatched very quickly. Um, Kuwagamon is leaning more towards what we kind of expect from insectoid beasts. You know, this big beetle thing that really attacks. Um, and comparing it to Kabuterimon, I prefer Kabuterimon. This is a bit more cartoony. In a way, it actually reminds me of an Eggman robot. What I like about the design, it looks like a beetle, it reads like a beetle. Pretty neat. What I dislike, they didn't do anything too unique with it. It just kind of feels like they made a giant bug. I think they could have added some. You know, part of what I liked about Kabuterimon is they gave it a samurai helm. They made it look like it was, something like out of Alien, but still its own thing. This just feels like an insect, and they didn't do enough to really change it. It just feels like an armored robot. If I were to change this, I would probably add a different kind of head crest on the top. Make it like to emphasize that it's a rival of Kabuterimon. Uh, Other than that, it's eh. I think the tradition with Digimon is with the adventure cast they encounter a Kuwagamon, just because it was the first champion they had to fight. Overall, it's an okay design, but kind of forgettable, if I'm going to be honest. If I'm going to be frank. So, recap what I like about the design: looks like an insect. What I dislike about the design: it's not too unique. And if I were to change it, I would add something to really break up that insect feel. Add a samurai helmet or something to emphasize it's a counter to Kabuterimon. So, 1 minute. I like these little. I have these little tiny sandials I got from Amazon. They're very useful. I'm going to see how far I can go today. Let's see. Consider getting Shantae Half Genie Hero. Would anyone be interested in seeing Marathon being streamed? In addition to Shantae? So now we're going to Kawagamon X antibody. Kawagamon X antibody. Its virus personality has grown stronger. While was instinctively hostile against vaccine Digimon before, Kawagamon X antibody now treats daddy Digimon the same way, attacking them on sight. It has come to prefer a greedy fighting style, having acquired the special move Crunch Arm, which it uses to carve and harm foes with sharp strengthening arms before inflicting fatal wounds on the cuts of its head pincers. Okay, so basically, we made a more demon Kawagamon. Things I like. I do like that they made the head crest more villainous. That was a complaint I had with the previous design. That's fun. That's neat. It still reminds me of an Eggman robot. Kind of reminds me of the Contra enemy, the enemy of Contra at the end. Things I don't like. They could have done a bit more with the design. Something to really show it's ferocious, like extra spikes, extra things that make it look dangerous. Otherwise, it feels a bit too robotic, with the exception of the head crest. I do like the head crest. That being said, if I were to change this design, I would probably want to add an X somewhere on the design. Probably somewhere on the head to emphasize that this has the X antibody. Actually, I'll say I prefer this over the previous design. So to recap, I like that they they added the head crest to the design and made it seem more villainous. I dislike that they didn't really do much. It feels too much like an Eggman robot. And if I were to change the design, I would probably add an X to the design. Overall, though, I do give this the perfect. I prefer this Digimon over the standard Kawagamon. And I hope you're still here, Renamon 5658, because we're about to reach a next Digimon soon. Which I think you'll be interested in. So if you know, so Renamon 5658, if you're still out there, We're going to move on to the next Digimon, which I think you're going to be interested in. Cubimon. Cubimon. A mysterious beast Digimon in the shape of a giant fox with 9 tails. Cubimon is feared as a beast bringing destruction and decay, but in ancient times it was hailed as a bringer of peace. A Renamon with particularly strong abilities and a wide range of expertise is said to digivolve into a Cubimon. It lacks attack power, but possesses incredible spirit energy and specializes in spells. The blue flames burning on its limbs supposedly allow Cubimon to gallop through the heavens. Its signature move, Foxtail Inferno, creates and controls will-o-wisps. Its special move, Dragon Wheel, causes a dragon of blue flame to erupt from its tail to burn its foes. So, Cubimon, as we all know, is famously Renamon's champion form, and appeared quite a lot in Tamers, generally with Renamon riding Cubimon as a steed. Cubimon is, from a design standpoint, obviously Cubimon takes a lot of inspiration from Ninetales, the Ninetales. In fact, if I'm correct, Cubi means Ninetales. I could be wrong on that. But we are taking a lot of inspiration from the Kitsune. Way more than just Renamon. Things about the design. It's interesting that they added in things about the design I like. It's interesting they added in the blue flames because the Kitsune were associated with blue fire. If you're a fan of Avatar, that's partially why Azula is associated with foxes. It's because she's bending blue fire, which is associated with Kitsune, which are associated with tricksters. In this case, though, they're leaning less into the trickster aspect of foxes and more into the noble, heavenly aspect that foxes have in Asiatic culture. In a lot of cultures in Asia, especially Japan. Things with this design. They're also adding in they also have the bow around not bow. I don't know the specific term for this. They have the holy knot that is added that I see on some Shinto shrines. You also see it appear on some shrine maidens, if I remember correctly. I'm not an expert on this, but it is interesting they're adding that holy aspect to Cubimon. Things about the design. They also have the yin yang, which I think is a bit excessive, but okay. Things about the design. So it's a well thought out design. A bit complex, but well thought out. What I dislike about the design, I'm not exactly a big fan of having the yin yang symbol all over the design. That's more of a Taoist thing than Shinto, but then again, I kind of understand why they add it because that is on Renamon's design. Personally, I would omit the yin-yang sign on Cubimon's head and instead have some kind of other purple embellishment that connects with the purple whiskers she has. Other changes. The fire is a bit of an extra thing to add on the paws. I think on the tail it's enough. On the paws it's a bit excessive, but I can understand where they're going for. They're going for a more heavenly beast aspect of the Digimon. If I were to change the Digimon, because it's very hard to mess with perfection, I would omit the yin-yang symbol on Cubimon's forehead and replace it with some other symbol or just more purple lines. I would also probably omit the flames on the legs and probably just make them more of ruffled up fur, similar to what she has around the collar. Overall, though, I will say Cubimon does get the perfect, this is it's a well thought out Digimon, and I think from a design standpoint it's good. Oh, there is one other thing I would change. I think on the front paws I would probably add, because Renamon in her rookie form has the purple arm warmers. I think I would want to keep that in the champion form to show that connection between Cubimon and Renamon. I realize there's already a connection because both are nine-tailed foxes. They're both fox Digimon, but I think adding that would further emphasize there is a major connection between these two. But overall, this is a perfect Digimon, and I think a good tail end for today's stream. So to recap, I like this design. They took a lot of cultural inspiration when making this Digimon. What I don't like the yin yang symbol on the forehead. I think that's a bit excessive. You already have it on the four legs. If I were to change this design, I would remove the yin yang symbol and replace it with some more purple stripes. And perhaps on the front legs, put some kind of leg warmer that shows a connection to the original Renamon, its early evolution. But overall, I really like this design. I'm going to give 1 minute. Renamon 5658, are you still there? And with that, we're going to say that this stream has come to an end. As established earlier, I'm not going to be going to Anime Tyler in Tyler, Texas this year. It crept up on me, and I didn't realize what time it was happening. And plus, with how travel is right now, I'm going to hold off. Other little things, because time is opened up, I'll see about streaming more frequently. Possibly. That's not a guarantee, but it is something that I'll look into. So don't be surprised if you see on Mondays I do a kind of random stream, whether that be a game or something consistent. It's probably not going to be a reoccurring game. It might just be something that I pop in every now and then. Other things, make sure to like and no, before I say that, remember to tune in to Digi Destiny this Saturday. They're having a stream. They're continuing their adventures into session 6. Outside of that, remember to like and subscribe. That does a lot to help the channel, especially with subscriptions. If we can reach 500 subscribers, I'll see about opening up a Discord. And as for my reviews, we are still working on Area 51. I don't know when that's going to come, but it will come out at some point. Hopefully in May, but we'll see. So, like I said, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. We'll probably start with Cubimon next session, just so that Renamon 5658 can see it. So don't be surprised if we do a repeat of Cubimon. Well, see you all next time. Bye! I really wish YouTube would just let me, when I say end stream, just end stream, not give me this confirmation. But, yeah. Bye!